Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of Let's Go Talk About It, NFT talk show podcast. We talk about everything that's going on in the NFT world. We try to do these as quickly as possible after an event happens because, as you know, the world moves at lightning speed. It's only been a few days, but yeah, it seems like it's been forever in the NFT world. There's been a lot of big things happening for the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and that's what this episode is going to be about. How did Bored Ape Yacht Club start? Why is it the kind of the de facto project? It's not the number one project in terms of floor price, CryptoPunk, and also what's the other one? It's the Pixel Monkey one. CyberKongz, I want to say. CyberKongz Genesis. Those are like number one, number two. And then you have Bored Apes. But in terms of what I want to say, cultural impact and kind of the brand and the IP, I do think Bored Apes is the number one. And there's a lot of ways you can measure that. You can do like Twitter following, you can do how much people talk about it. But yeah, there isn't like an exact stat I want to use, but when people talk about NFTs, and especially when people that don't know talk about NFTs, they'll say, oh, is that the ugly monkey JPEG? While it is insulting to be called ugly monkey JPEG for Bored Ape Yacht Club, it is a testament to how big they are. Even people that don't know about NFTs do know about Bored Ape Yacht Club in a way, because that is the image that comes to their head when they think NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about how much people are talking about something, Twitter followers. The simple thing is floor price, right? We've seen floor price skyrocket for the Bored Apes. This is coming out of what was maybe like a 3-week bear market recently, going into the first and second week of November. And it's hard to say what exactly causes a project to pump or to go up. I mean, it's kind of undeniable that this past week we've seen a couple big things happen after NFT NYC, where there were a ton of Bored Ape events, which was one, Jimmy Fallon getting a Bored Ape and Post Malone getting a Bored Ape. So we should talk about that.
Awesome. Let's talk about it. So which one do you want to hit on first? Which one do you want to hit on first, Jimmy Fallon or Post Malone?
In some ways, I see them as similar, but let's start with Jimmy.
Okay. So, yeah, Jimmy Fallon got a Bored Ape. He posted about it on his Twitter. There were a lot of the right-click favors, and I do want to hand it back to you because I don't want to get any facts wrong. I want to say he talked about it on his show.
Yeah, so he did talk about it on his show. I think it was about a week ago, and this was when he hosted Beeple, who just had, I think, about a $29 million sale for Human One, which was this kind of evolving, physical piece, this hulking thing with a corresponding NFT. And the idea was that this was really like his second huge piece going up on auction ever since Everydays went for 69 million. This one is about this figure who's kind of like the first human. And the artwork changes. It's dynamic. So imagine I'm some rich dude who buys this and it's in my room. And then one day I wake up and it's totally different. Like Beeple's done something. I thought it was really cool. It kind of not only emphasizes the innovation in the space using NFTs, but it also kind of emphasizes how there's the artist and collector relationship that evolves over time. But basically, from what I understand, Jimmy brought people on for an interview, and he also told them, hey, I got a Bored Ape. He had tweeted this tweet of his ape. It has a sailor cap, I think. Mm-hmm. And he said, permission to come aboard, which is classic Jimmy humor. And then there was the other part where on the show he said, oh, by the way, I got an ape. And he also mentioned that he got an ape through MoonPay, which is kind of like a place where you could buy crypto using a credit card. So in some ways similar to Coinbase from what I understand. And interestingly enough, MoonPay was also the company that helped Post Malone buy an ape in his newest music video with The Weeknd. It shows him clicking buy on the Bored Ape through MoonPay. And so that kind of leads us to this talk about, all right, what's MoonPay's role in all this?
Probably a sponsor, right? I actually have no idea, and I want to apologize to MoonPay in advance if you guys weren't the sponsor. But to be called out by name like that, and also to be featured, is in my head, it has to be a sponsorship. And a lot of these exchanges, they have so much money and they want more buyers. There's very, very, very few crypto buyers, especially in the US. I think the percentage, I want to say, is like less than 20%. And it's largely, overwhelmingly male. And they want a bigger demographic. So yeah, I would have to imagine it's a sponsorship. But if it's not, damn, what a shout out from Jimmy and Post Malone and also being in a music video. But to get back into the real topic, which is Bored Apes, all these things, like all Jimmy Fallon, Post Malone, also Steph Curry has a Bored Ape, and then he's using it as his profile picture. It's exposure for your IP, it's exposure for your brand, and yeah, this is very, very important. Coming from the influencer world, coming from the gaming world, having someone basically buy your project and talk about it, also use it as your profile picture, is an endorsement, and it's a huge endorsement. Dude, the profile picture endorsement part is so big because anywhere you see Steph Curry tweeting, you will see that profile picture. If there is an article of Steph Curry's tweet, if it's not a screenshot of an article, but actually a link of the tweet, in that article, you will see that ape. And you'll start developing recognition. And this is why advertisers pay millions of dollars for people to advertise their project, or product, like a shoe, a t-shirt, a drink. Because the more you see it, the more you develop familiarity with it. And when it comes to a purchasing decision, and when you're about to spend your money, you will spend it on something you are familiar with. You will spend it on something your favorite athlete, favorite musician, favorite talk show host has endorsed. And Bored Ape, I am pretty sure they did not pay Steph Curry. Like all these celebrities talking about it and using it as their profile picture, like just the advertisement dollars that it's worth is crazy high. And yeah, that's why they are the number one cultural project or the number one IP. And this is where I think the entire world is headed in terms of Web3. You're not trying to build an NFT project, you're trying to start an IP, you're trying to start a brand. Bored Apes, they're not trying to compete with CryptoPunks. They're not trying to compete with CyberConks. Who they're ultimately going to compete with is brands like Supreme. It's going to be these big original Web2, original pre-NFT IPs. And that's where, yeah, the real battles will be fought. And that's where when an NFT project will really make it, when they have legs, not just as an NFT project, but as a separate IP beyond being known as Bored Apes, beyond being known as, oh, they're that NFT project.
Right. I think that's an amazing point. You know, so first, just to clarify, my understanding with MoonPay is that they would help these athletes, celebrities, musicians buy the Bored Ape because there is a kind of friction to it, right? When we talk about this IP competing with Supreme, Supreme is easy in some ways, right? I can line up and show up in New York for this drop, get in line, and then I go to the front, I pick out what I want, right? I bring it to the front, all right, let me get this Supreme. Or I get on for the drop when it comes out, and I type in my stuff like really fast, and I click, click, click. I use the autofill, I check out, boom, like got it. Or I use a bot, because I use a bot, whatever. Some people do that. I mean, a lot of people do that. Maybe that's...
You need to use a bot if you're trying to buy Supreme.
Yeah. Maybe that's what Bored Apes are competing with as well. But in a sense, it's what we know. It's what people are used to. But it's different with crypto and with NFTs. You know, right now there is a little bit of friction, especially if you're using like MetaMask, say going through Coinbase, maybe even through MoonPay. I haven't used MoonPay myself. But in some ways, they not only made it look easy, you know, Post Malone taps it and then he gets the ape, which is maybe part of the advertising. But also the idea of reducing friction has been MoonPay doing it for them. You know, I don't know. Like if I could talk to Post, I would want to ask him like, so hey, like, could you do this through MetaMask and OpenSea? If I was like, hey, Post, like buy an ape right now, could you buy an ape right now?
Dude,
and that's an interesting question.
You have actually done that for athletes, no? From my knowledge, like you have helped famous athletes by Coolcast. So I'm kind of curious, like, is that the norm? Like, do they not know anything? Because I feel like they have general interest in NFTs and then they maybe have like a manager help them. But for someone with no knowledge about NFTs, for them to buy an NFT and make a huge financial commitment, I guess for someone like Post Malone, Jimmy Fallon, it's not a huge financial commitment, probably like less than 1% of your net worth. So maybe it's different for them and they can just do it on a whim and they don't really care about getting scammed or, oh, I'm spending so much money. But what if it like, do these famous people actually know about NFTs, know about the culture, know about why it's important, why that one is special, why they should get into a certain project?
Right. So I think I'll give an example of the NBA players that I've spoken with, and maybe help them buy NFTs. So some people in the space know that I kind of helped Andre Iguodala buy his first big NFT, which was a cool cat. It wasn't so much that I was like, hey, this is what you click, 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 and click to get to it. I think there was actually a Twitter Spaces where people kind of helped him through that. Um, I did kind of talk to him about why Cool Cats is interesting, why community matters for that project. But in the end, he did buy Cool Cat a little bit above floor, even though it was a floor rarity. So in some ways, not only myself, but others in the community, we might have not communicated that perfectly. Because for me, if I'm spending above floor for a floor Cool Cat, unless it's really freaking cool, or like it looks like me, or it reminds me of something sentimental, I wouldn't pay like a 30% premium above floor, which is what he paid. I mean, Andre's got money, so maybe it doesn't matter too much. We've also heard about like Tyrese Halliburton, who understands NFTs pretty well. I think he would like negotiate with people on Top Shot over like $20 for something because to him that's important. So there was like a little bit of, you know, not fully understanding there, and then we also had to help him through getting scammed. Andre Iguodala had his cool cat scammed and taken away, and we had to save it with like a rescue bot. And it took a few weeks actually to teach him, look, here's how you create a new wallet. Here's how you protect it. Right? Here's how we can basically facilitate this exchange to get your cool cat back. And we had to teach him all these things. And the whole time it made me realize, you know, how long onboarding takes. There are some people in the space who understand it pretty well. Like Josh Hart understands crypto and NFTs quite well, to the point where he's told me like, yeah, other players are like, dude, you're the NFT guru for the NBA. And he does understand quite a bit. And then you have like Grayson Allen, who's bought into some NFTs, but I had to basically send him a video teaching him how to buy NFTs, how to use gas. Because when you're spamming gas, you can't just put high. I had to be like, look, if you're getting a drop, you have to raise it to this amount. And it's so weird communicating these things. So I understand like MoonPay playing a role in this, right? To ease that friction. For me, there's this other part that's like, you have celebrities entering the space. How do we make them look like gurus or knowledgeable people? Because that goes really far too. There's the effect of saying, hey, the kids are talking at school because Steph, their favorite player, just bought a Bored Ape. But what happens when Steph goes up and teaches people, right, about how to set up NFT wallets? What does it mean to be a part of a community? Like, that's what we still need. And that's what I think will really be a revolution when you combine not only stardom, right, and popularity and culture, right? These are titans of culture, but also with knowledge and onboarding. I think that's when we see something change. And honestly, like with Jimmy and Post and Steph, I haven't really seen that as much. So part of me wishes like maybe Josh Hart, for some reason, just like scored double the points that you scored in every season before. Become a superstar, please, because you understand NFTs better than them. So I would like for that to happen. I think it's something to be hopeful about. You know, if I can share one story, maybe you put this up on the screen, but like, so my family, to kind of dox myself, my family's lived in Arcadia, California for a few years, and when I was young, one of my favorite musicians, Jason Chen, also lives in Arcadia. So back in 2016, I saw him at the same gym we worked out at, and we took a selfie. He was probably like, who the F is this kid? He looks kind of confused in the selfie. And then 5 years later, for the past couple months, we've been talking a lot about Bored Apes, about NFTs. We became friends without him knowing that I was a fanboy of him 5 years ago. And I finally like dropped that picture on him the other day after we took a selfie. I was like, all right, we took the selfie. Check this out. 5 years ago, the exact same picture, except we're 5 years older now, and now we're into NFTs. He told me he bought his first ape because he found out that Steph Curry had one, and he's a fan of Steph. But he said that over time, I learned so much more about what the community was about, and that's why I'm here for the long term. We still got to make that onboarding process easier, but I think um, if people like Jimmy and people like Post Malone are buying these, if it does help get people's foot in the door, it could be really interesting for the space. Again, like I said, it's not perfect because it doesn't help a ton with onboarding, but if it does help get people's foot in the door to learn more, like I hope that more people have that transformation that Jason Chen had, where you're in it for the money, the same way you started out in this for the money, and then you learned. I think that's what's interesting to me.
So interestingly, Twitch and video gaming or playing video games for a living and being a streamer actually went through kind of the same thing where it was kind of a niche thing and it got bigger and bigger. And it's not that this one moment like blew open the doors, but it was definitely a catalyst moment. I think you probably know of it. It's when Ninja played with Drake on Twitch. It was the biggest individual streaming like record set where yeah, basically Ninja played with Drake and other rappers and NFL players. And yeah, it was a very big cultural moment for playing games, and Twitch and streaming games is cool. One of the most famous rappers in the world does it. Ninja became a superstar because of it. Like everyone that played video games, like Post Malone actually did also a stream with another famous streamer. But yeah, it's when people started coming out, oh, I play video games too. Oh, I watch Twitch streamers too. Oh, I also like Ninja too. And whenever we have people like Jimmy, we have people like Post Malone buying NFTs, using it as their profile picture, yeah, that gets people talking. Unfortunately, it's not a lot of good talk. It's about, oh my God, Jimmy, don't support this. Like, you're burning down the rainforest. Oh, you just got right click saved. Like, there's still a lot of education that needs to be done. There's still a lot of, we need to spread the good word. But yeah, it is a really, really big moment. I did want to keep this episode about Bored Apes, and I have a lot of questions about Bored Apes because, yeah, when I got into the space, Bored Ape was one of the top dogs, and they just gotten bigger and bigger, and they blew up. And I want to ask you, what made Bored Apes stand out from all these other projects, and like what really shot them up to kind of the top of the list? Like, what is so different about Bored Apes that they are the de facto go-to? They are the ones that all these famous celebrities buy. Because I do remember it used to be CryptoPunks that was the ones that people used to buy. CryptoPunks is still the number one in terms of I don't want to say number one in terms of floor price because I know the Genesis Cyberkongs are actually the official number one in terms of floor price. But CryptoPunks is the godfather. It is the number one, but it isn't the most popular. It isn't the most culturally talked about. Like, what made Bored Apes the most culturally talked about, the most popular NFTs?
I think you can ask anybody and we'll all have different opinions. To be honest, I really entered the space on July 1st with Cool Cats coming out. And before that, I was kind of just hanging around on Top Shot, doing some things, not really focused on learning about what an NFT really was. And Bored Apes came out before that, right? Earlier in the summer, or right before the summer. And one of the first things I heard about it, even before I entered the Cool Cats scene and the whole NFT scene with that huge purchase of the rarest Cool Cat, I had heard about how Bored Apes were the first kind of project to really do token gating, right? The idea of token being the ape and that being the key through this gate in which you enter a world of events and utilities, right? And things to do and people to see. And to me, CryptoPunks never really had that same conception, right? To me, they're more a collectibles project than necessarily a PFP project. To me, it felt like Bored Apes was like the first major PFP, like native project that was like, hey, you take on this identity, right? And it's your token into this world of in-person events and this Discord and these interesting conversations. And, CryptoPunks will always be the historical thing. I mean, so many of us aspired to have a CryptoPunk. I probably aspire to have a CryptoPunk too.
I want a
one
punk
day.
too.
Yeah, let's be honest about that. We love the CryptoPunks, but I think with Bored Apes, and now you see like one Bored Ape is worth about half a CryptoPunk, and Bored Apes have only been around for half a year. Part of it was like I get to be a part of this community, I get to do all these things, and people who understand the NFT space now understand that. But there was a point in which, nobody took that for granted. This was like a new thing. And all of a sudden, you bring in so many people who, in their own right, maybe they weren't Post Malone, Steph Curry, right? Or Jimmy Fallon. They became great ambassadors for the project, right? Um, I think of somebody like Josh Ong, right? He's so big into apes and he's such a good steward for them, right? He's not as famous as Post, but he's been putting on events, putting on meetups, right? Making sure people in the apes get taken care of. Um, you have so many people who are like, all right, I own this ape, so I have to be a great steward for the space. And I really think that's a huge part of how the value went up, right? Because when you feel emotionally attached to something and you're like, I'm a steward for this, there are fewer apes listed. There's that emotional buy-in. It's treated as more than just a stock. And to me, that's the essence of like not only what makes a project successful, but something that Bored Apes helped to pioneer. Now, to be honest, right, there is some controversy as of late. I've spoken to some friends, and I don't want to out them, but some of them feel that Bored Apes has kind of lost its way a little bit, right? A kind of focus on the hype, a focus on the floor price, a focus on making money, and not so much the grassroots. Now, I don't personally know to what extent that's true. Um, I do think they do a whole lot for the community, but I think when a project does get really big, it does kind of raise those questions as well, right? I can't answer that. Um, Full disclosure, like I don't have a Bored Ape, but I have a mutant, and I love my mutant, and people know that I have this mutant, which I really love, and I post a lot. But for me, it's like you had at NFT NYC, you had that video of them going down the line
Line,
for the
yeah.
Bored Ape yacht, and people are going like, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh. And it's like such an interesting like cultural question to me, because I think early days of Bored Apes, right, when that was happening on Clubhouse, where dozens of apes were just going, ooh, like that was kind of good. I just did that. I was like, maybe I should be a voice actor. Maybe I should. But when I saw something like that and it was early, I was like, this is a kind of innovation, right? But then over time, you see it, and the way the video looked optically was a kind of like toxic masculinity type thing, of mostly men like making these monkey noises and making it look kind of like a frat. I'm just gonna say it. And for me, it's like I know some apes who really act like that, right? Who really just want to make it a social club for like fraternizing. And then there are apes who are some of the most genuine people that I've ever met in the space, people who have taught me tons of things. And so I think Bored Apes, I think of them as kind of at a crossroads. And that's what happens when culture shifts, right? You're in a liminal space. And in that liminal transition period, so much can change. And the direction of your project can change so much. And you have to make the right decisions about where you want the project to go. And in the NFT space, what's cool is that it's as much of the founder's decision as much it is the holder's decision, which is really cool. And you kind of get together and you're like, all right, we have this ton of momentum. Our floor price is going to the moon. We have celebrities, Steph, Post, right? Jimmy Fallon, a part of this. But we also have people whose lives were changed by the space. Bored Apes taught us new things, right? We have things like the NFT NYC video that got criticized a lot. Some people comparing us to a frat. Andrew saying some people are like a frat. But also this really wholesome, thoughtful, you know, the strong IP, the amazing use case for the space. How do we decide which way we go? And I think that's where I see Bored Apes right now. I see it as, able to make a lot of decisions about what the future looks like.
The other really big thing about Bored Apes that I want to mention is they're breaking down barriers for NFTs. The soda buy auction. I know there was auction for punks too, or at least one punk I want to say. But there's like a collection of Bored Apes that got auctioned off. That was really big news, and also, God, I need to do more research before we do these episodes. But it's the record company that is now starting a band with four Bored Apes. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I don't know the apes specifically, but I believe it's with Timbaland.
Thank
You
you.
know,
That's why I'm the dumb person. I'm the person that asks questions. But yeah, it's they're breaking down barriers for NFTs, and when they do that, a rising tide raises all ships. It makes the whole space have more notoriety, and it's good for all NFT projects. It's not, oh, if I eat, you don't get to eat. No, if I eat, then there's food for all of us. Like more people get to know about us, more people get to hear about us. Yeah, Bored Apes just is the cultural phenomenon for NFTs, and it's the one kind of at the top, like pushing NFTs forward. I keep talking about Punks because Punks is the number one project. Punk is the oldest project. Punks is the like it's the godfather of all projects, but I really think Bored Ape is the number one project in terms of cultural notoriety. And I actually said this before, and it's a statement that I want to retract if I can. So there's this NFT influencer or famous figure named OX Function. He was talking about, oh, I think one day Bored Apes might flip Punks in terms of floor price, and I told him, dude, there's no way that's going to happen. The or the historical significance that comes with CryptoPunks and being the original profile picture project is something that is evergreen, and it there's way too many whales, there's way too many important people invested into CryptoPunks for Bored Apes to ever flip CryptoPunks in terms of price. But I still don't think that's likely, but I think it is way more likely than I gave it credit for. I think there is definitely a world where Bored Ape, as it grows, it has the potential to flip CryptoPunks in terms of price. And also, you talked about founders and holders, right? Bored Ape doing merch, Bored Ape throwing a large party at NYC, NFT NYC, but all the other things that we talked about, Jimmy Fallon, Steph Curry, Post Malone, these are in certain ways holder wins, not founder wins. These are holders of Bored Apes doing this. It's Jimmy Fallon becomes a holder, Steph Curry becomes a holder. The Timberland music record, like them starting a band, that's a holder thing. The one project that you talked about with the ballet Bored Ape, like someone kind of starting a spin-off project on top of Bored Ape that also gets its notoriety. It's not, I want to say it's a ballet. It's a Bored Ape that's a writer slash ballet. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Jenkins the valet.
Yeah, Jenkins the
Yes.
ballet, that one. But all these things that happen for Bored Apes, like, yeah, it's so amazing to see. It's not just the founders that are pushing things forward, but it's also the holders. And in combination, that whole community is doing amazing work and is, yeah, like creating an IP from scratch that's competing and that will continue to compete with some of the biggest IPs in the world already.
Yeah. It's so great. Like when you're a holder, right, you feel empowered. I think that's ultimately what I see. People in the space often talk about how you need three of any project. You need one to flip in the short term, one to flip in the long
Long term.
term, and
And
one
one
to
to
hold
hold.
forever.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
funny because I got that exact advice from a trader friend. I didn't know that was such a common advice.
For me, I'm like, that makes sense in a way. In another way, I'm like, all you kind of need is one, in the sense that you could have one ape, but that's Jenkins the valet, and you build this whole narrative around it. You build a whole persona on it. You build a brand for yourself. From what I know, like maybe Steph Curry has more than one ape, but all he needed was to make one ape his profile picture for people to go crazy, right? If I didn't have my other cool cats, you know, and I just had my upside down cat, I still could have built a brand because I can only have one profile picture. I'm still a holder. I'm still a part of the community. I mean, I haven't flipped a single one of my cats. You can check my OpenSea.
Yeah.
OpenSea Andrew Wang. I've held all of my cats. And what's cool about that is like when you become a holder in a good project, if you believe in it, then you'll be empowered to act with it in some ways and to do something fascinating with it. And that's why it's not just a stock. I mean, in some ways, stocks are similar, but if I put $10,000 in Apple stock, like, am I going to their meetings? Am I like voting on protocols? Am I really like becoming a huge like ambassador for the brand? Like, not really. I'm looking at it, I'm like, like this new iPhone, it looks the exact same as the last 5 years, but they did one thing different, and I think the stock is going to go up. That's me not understanding like stocks as much, but for me, when I look at NFTs, I feel so much more empowered when I'm a holder, and I think Bored Apes, in part, they're succeeding, and will continue to succeed because they do a really great job of empowering their holders. Like I said, there's still controversy. People are debating whether or not it's going in the right direction, even as, when price goes up, it's always the right direction. But then there's the cultural stuff, there's the norms, there's the reputation, and people are still discussing whether it's going in the right direction. But for me, I think, I know so many Bored Ape holders that I'm confident that, they'll sort their stuff out and not only build a brand that's worth a lot, but a brand that's known for amazing things, pioneering things. And it can be true for CryptoPunks too. It can be true for Cool Cats. It can be true for Doodles, Creatures. Fair disclosure, I own all of these except CryptoPunks and Bored.
CryptoPunk. So for the big difference for me, the CryptoPunk versus Bored Apes is CryptoPunk Larva Labs. They're kind of hands off. They are the number one project, but they didn't host anything at NFT NYC as far as I know. Where Bored Apes hosted the biggest and the baddest party. They had like big rappers on, and they're continuing to build. We talk about holders doing a lot, but also as project leads, they're doing a lot. I want to say they're called Yoga Labs. What's the name of the
Yeah, Yuga Labs
Yuga Labs?
for both.
Yeah, for Bored Apes, like that group is pushing the project forward. Where yeah, Larva Labs on the other hand is like kind of hands off. They're like, we did our thing, like we made our piece, and we're kind of done. Like let the owners kind of do what they want to do. Like we've already made our mark on history, and yeah, I'm kind of curious about the future. Maybe not even in 5 years, in 1 year, what does the floor price look like for both? What is the IP size, the brand recognition for both?
I mean, there's that common saying which goes, Loco, have you ever seen a Lamborghini ad? Or have you ever seen Patek Philippe ad? And what that implies is like, well, if you're CryptoPunks, then you don't need to do those. For me, I'm like, to hell with all those traditional ads. You still are building a brand. You still have your holders, you still have your IP, and there's always a way to build it. And it's important to be creative, right? It's not about running ads, right? For me, maybe Post or Steph or Jimmy getting an ape is a kind of ad in a sense. I mean, it is an ad for MoonPay, but what is it really for the Bored Apes? I think it can be more, right? Imagine we get Steph or Jimmy. To be clear, I don't know if MoonPay bought it for Steph. I'm not sure on that.
Mm.
But imagine if you could get Jimmy Fallon into spaces and
Oof.
educate him and have him educate you back, right? Have him talk about what he's learned in the entertainment industry and how he sees parallels but also differences in the Web3 space as a way to teach us with the wealth of knowledge and experience that he has. You know, that's when it becomes more than an advertisement. That's when it becomes a community. That's when it becomes a project. That's when it becomes an innovation from Jimmy's side. And I'm like, that's cool. And that's, I almost want to say like a standard we should hope to have.
Mm.
Like, for me, if I ever built out my own project and I had the chance to give it to a celebrity or any of the celebrities that I know, like, would I? Well, it depends, right? If I'm giving it to a celebrity and I know he's just going to take it and never look at it again and it's just going to sit pretty in his wallet, I would not want him to have it as much as, I'll give you an example. There are about two or three people who follow me on Twitter, and every time I tweet, they instantly retweet me, instantly like it, and comment. And in the old way, we might just joke and dismiss them as reply guys. But they genuinely brighten my day, and we're always talking because they're the first one to that conversation. So when I have a question, they'll always throw out an opinion, right? And when I think about them, right, I know one of them quite well now. He has one NFT, right? He's not wealthy at all. But if I ever had a project, he's the first person I'm giving an NFT to, right? Like if I ran Crypto New Yorkers or Crypto Venetians where you can, choose people and nominate them to have a minting, I'm choosing that guy because I know he's going to be a steward for me and an ambassador for me and that he understands the space, even though he's not a whale by any means. Like I want him on board. So then it's like, if I could bring someone with the energy of that guy, with maybe the reach and influence and audience of Jimmy, you combine them like fusion, it's gonna be incredible. Like that's ideal, right? Like wait, let's do it real quick.
The other way, Andrew, you gotta do the other way.
You, Jen. Exactly, you get it.
Yeah. Oh, actually, oh yeah, it goes like this.
Yeah, yeah,
No, no,
this
I did it the wrong way. I did it the wrong
again,
way.
ready? No,
Wait, so
you
no,
charge
no.
up.
Okay, so no, do it the other way, and then we gotta go together.
We
Okay,
see
good.
each other. We see each other differently because I'm
Okay,
on the left and you're on the
okay,
right.
so you gotta go the other way. Go.
So we're
Okay.
the other way
No, no.
because I'm on the right. Okay,
Okay, so do the opposite.
so we
Okay,
go
right
this.
now, yeah. You.
Okay. You, Jen, let's
Oh
go.
my God.
Let's go.
To get back.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's when Moon. That's
that's
when
when
Moon.
Moon. When Lambo, when Jimmy Fallon and Andrew Finn number one
You do it, and
featured.
then it becomes a Lambo. We
Yeah.
become a Lambo. Every fusion, doesn't matter who, it becomes a Lambo.
To get back into the community building part of Bored Ape, but yeah, you talked about Apple, and I want to talk about creators. Like, if you're a Ninja fan, like you're just a Ninja fan, sure, like you can wear a headband, you can wear a T-shirt, you can be in Ninja's chat, and you contribute to the brand. Very, very tiny. You're like a tiny ant contributing. But when you have a Bored Ape profile picture, and you comment on something, comment on Andrew's post or another very famous crypto influencer, Lupify, um, who else? Beanie, whoever. If you comment, or if you participate in a discussion of a crypto creator, of a NFT creator, whatever you say, a lot of people will see and they'll associate, even on a tiny basis, but much bigger on that ninja example that I gave. Oh, this is what people with Bored Ape profile pictures are like. We talked about it before in a previous episode, but you really do represent the community, even if you don't build anything, just by how you talk, just by who you are. People recognize people with Bored Ape pictures are like this, people with CryptoPunk pictures are like this, because even though there's only 10,000, there's actually not as much holders, because people hold more than one. And a lot of times, people that hold them sometimes don't even use Twitter. So the amount of people with legitimate profile pictures for a certain project, representing that project, being in Twitter and commenting on Twitter and just participating is actually really small. And yeah, you represent a large collective, and how you present yourself is a huge part of what people view that project as. And every project has certain kind of image. Every project has certain stereotypes. CryptoPunk, OG people, Bored Ape Yacht Club, the hype beast of NFT, and the cool cast, the community, the friendly doodles, the other community based, the other friendly. And yeah, I think we talk about it a lot. If you own a certain NFT project, you're really part of that project, and you're really part of that project going up, that project going down, how people view that project.
No, it's really true. Um, yeah, I've loved this discussion about the board apes I've been having with friends the past week. Especially sometimes the people who disagree with the idea of, Jimmy and Post Malone being the spark for their project.
Mm.
There are some who think, the spark for this project should be like, can Bored Apes bring in like all kinds of different voices, like be really inclusive, right? For example, with women or like people of color, like they tell me like that's really cool, right? When we can have that,
I,
because these hype projects, like oftentimes people will look the same, and like they'll tell me those things, or they'll say, hey, how cool is it that we get investors and amazing artists, right? Because you can own a Bored Ape, you can own this art, but also be an artist and create amazing stuff yourself, right? When we're all at the same table, we're all holders together. Like that's empowering, and honestly, it's just as empowering to me as celebrities. We can see both sides.
when you mentioned like minorities or women getting into Bored Apes, like that comment was just so funny to me, because there's a floor price. It's not really about the color. I mean, to get into a more political discussion, sure, it might depend on the color of your skin, because, I mean, the truth of it is, there's inequality in terms of wealth amongst races, but yeah, like there's a huge floor price that needs to be first crossed before you even talk about owning a Bored Ape. Like, what's the floor price at now? I want to say something like 40 ETH, somewhere
Yeah,
around there. It's definitely at
in
least,
dollar terms, it's near $200,000, I think.
yeah. So if you can't cross that floor price, it doesn't even matter. And it's kind of silly to me to talk about, oh, we should have more people like this being into Bored Apes, it's like, how are you going to cross the floor price? Are you going to donate them Bored Apes? Are you going to donate them your own mutants? That's a really, really hard point to argue, in my opinion, in terms of, I want this type of person to get into my project. It's, well, they first have to be able to afford it before you can even talk about them getting into it. So what are you going to do about the floor price? If your floor price is so high, there has to be always one common requirement, which is you have at least $200,000 to throw around. And that is like the base level of people joining your community if they are latecomers to the scene.
I mean, so when I think about that, it makes me so first I'll say like there's definitely like, you know, most of the Bored Ape holders are like white dudes, kind of like in their late 20s and 30s. But
That's a
obviously,
demographic for most crypto holders, by the
for
way.
it's the demographic like for most crypto, and then still in NFTs, but to a slightly lesser amount because you're bringing in like artists, right? People who didn't really understand crypto or were in it as early, but can be early to NFTs. It is a little bit more like diverse, but it still kind of struggles with that issue. Um, Obviously, like there are people like women, minorities in Bored Apes already, who should be recognized. But then for me, when I hear your argument, I'm like, we also have to zoom out and think about the ecosystem as a whole, right? It's like I don't have a Bored Ape. I don't have the liquid for a Bored Ape right now. I would have to sell a bunch of my cool cats to get a Bored Ape, and right now I just don't want to do that. And the apes know I love them. I'm like always like cool cats and the apes support each other. But I think on a macro level, it makes me want to build out the space as a whole, right? And not dedicate all my energy to my biggest project that I'm a part of, which is Cool Cats, unofficially. It's like, how do we make the onboarding easy for everybody, right? Regardless of your gender, your race, host of factors, right? How do we bring the world into this and also make them money in addition to teaching them about crypto and about community? Because then if you build out the entire ecosystem, then people can start to move into different communities. And maybe you flip your way, or maybe you learn and build and create projects your way into a Bored Ape or a CryptoPunk or a Cool Cat. Or maybe you come up with an amazing idea for the next project, right? And it might take some time to get to a price that's like the Bored Apes now, but you can do it. And I think when we open up the broader ecosystem and say, okay, I'm an ape, I'm a cat, I'm a punk, right? I'm a doodle, I'm a creature, and my floor price is this high, and it's outside, it's outside the entry point for most people. Um, can I be a steward not only for my project but for the space as a whole, so the new people can enter? And I think that's not gonna say like that's how you solve like some of the representation issues in the space, but we want everybody to succeed, right? We don't just want the people who are early to succeed. I really think that's what we should mean when we say we're so early or we're early. It's that when you're early, it means you could bring people in and show them the ropes and help them find success as well. Um, that's my ideal. Because like you said, right, very few people are just giving apes away. Um, but if you can build out everything, that's how we make the space better.
So for me, I still think the whole discussion about, oh, we want more minorities or more women in the space, but dude, the floor price, like until like you expand your project or you have like a side project that where the floor price is much lower, I don't think that's even a really real discussion. So in the gaming space, we have kind of the same problem. How do we get more women into gaming? And I think the best solution has been going to women, going where women can have a safe space to be heard and to get educated, and building that out for them has been the most effective. If you really want minorities and more women into your project, what you should do is you should find where people that are at least on the fence about crypto, about NFTs are for these demographics, and actively go recruit and educate them. You don't have to show your project to them. You don't have to go to like a certain Discord and show it. But if you educate them, that is the very, very first step. So yeah, if I wanted a certain demographic, if I wanted more representation of that demographic, I would find, where do these people gather in the Web 2 world? Where can I find large communities of these people and spread my word? This is what crypto is, this is what NFTs are, this is my project, this is what my project stands for. And giving them that education and giving them that way in, I think is the best way. Sure, having great leadership, sure, having great representatives help, but I think education and just more comfortable space where people can learn without being criticized, and you are making that first gesture and letting them come in and opening the door is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I think that's where we agree. Like I think we both recognize that it's hard to just kind of talk and say this is what we need, that there are certain actionable things we should do. And like I said, I do think it takes a macro view, right? Like you said, education's important. We can't just say, okay, we need this and then we're done. Um, yeah, to me, crypto and maybe more so NFTs, it's a kind of like restructuring of the world, right? It's finally paying artists, finally recognizing the power of communities, recognizing creators, building those incentives, right? Building that infrastructure, criticizing Web 2 and some of the way things are run, criticizing, large institutions with multi-billion dollar like advertising budgets. Um, it's both evolution and a revolution at the same time. And, not only do you want to have a good look, um, you want to enact like genuine change. Bringing in new voices is cool because you get to kind of realize stuff you might miss on your own. Um, I think about diversity from that perspective a lot. It's like there was that one study where you looked at a trading room, and when you have it homogenous with race or gender, like people make more mistakes because you tend not to question as much.
Hmm.
Um, so when you diversify, like more people say, like, "Hey, is this really the way we want to go?" So when we look at Bored Apes, it's like floor price is going up. Like it's awesome. I don't have a Bored Ape, but I love that because I think it's good for the ecosystem as a whole. I respect the Bored Apes, but it's also good when you have enough people who are like, how do we be the best ambassadors? How do we look good, but how do we, really keep bringing value to holders, and changing the way things are done to leverage this IP in a way that Supreme, to use that example, hasn't done yet. Um, I care so much about potential, so that's what I'm always focused on. That's what I mean. If we say the space is early, then you have to recognize that we have to bring in potential, and we have to keep building, even though the price looks juicy right now. There's more to it.
Well said. Let's end on that.